I've always talked about wanting to be self-sufficient by the age of 40. And I turned 40 in September, and fast forward about 2.5 months, I stepped away from my job. I told myself by Master's Sunday, I want 10,000 subscribers. I told myself that. I told other people that. Master's Sunday is 3 days away, 4 days away, and I'm at 11,000.
What is the strategy around, what are you looking at to broaden out, to make what you're creating on YouTube more broader for people to get to your goal of hitting over 100,000? Nick, I want to pick up the conversation. As you mentioned before, you wrote in the article how you were an instruction editor at a golf company. Kind of paint us a picture so the audience understands kind of where you were in life before starting the business. What was life like?
Yeah, I mean, I always joke life was pretty fun. I don't want to use the word easy. I was a new dad, so life was far from easy. But when it came to the professional side of things, it was fairly easy. I was able to do what I needed to, get out on the golf course, get out to the driving range. My mind was always on creating content, and so any opportunity I had a chance to go do that, I really wanted to take that opportunity. Now, life changed when I had my daughter. My wife and our schedules were completely crazy, and there was not really time to go grind on the range and get some of that content. I think that eventually led me to question where I was professionally, to say, look, this life is fine. It's fun. I think I could be here and make it work for the next 3-5 years. But am I going to look back and say, man, I really missed an opportunity? And to me, that was sort of the light bulb that went off in my head to say, it's time to make a change.
So you mentioned the opportunity, you missed an opportunity in the sense of, did you feel like it was just more time you're on the road and just had a newborn, and that was the thing that was pulling you away from the comfortable job into possibly looking at entrepreneurship?
A little bit. I think for me, backing up for like the last 20 years, I've always talked about wanting to be self-sufficient by the age of 40. And I turned 40 in September, and fast forward about 2.5 months, I stepped away from my job. Now, it's not like I sat down right when I turned 40 and said, I need this to happen now. And, the clock's ticking. It just sort of naturally happened. And I think it was, I'm a big believer in like putting things out in the universe to kind of help guide you, almost like manifestation. And I think for me, I put it out there for so long that it was like, all right, you've asked for this, dude. Like, now's the time. It's your chance to go out there and do this. And I think the stars aligned for me to actually go out and start this company. But for me, in the job that I was at, again, it was comfortable, but being comfortable is not what's going to have me reach, I think, A, my full potential, and B, make me happy to get where I want to, succeed and exceed the goals that myself and my wife have put out there for my family. So I think for me, it was just a matter of, I'm doing this. I've been doing this for a long time, working in media for 15 or 16 years. Maybe it's time to really invest in myself and give this a go.
One of the things that you wrote too, that I was noticing that, and I'm curious how this conversation went with your wife when you mentioned you were going to transition, leaving the comfortable for something. Entrepreneurship, the thing that's interesting, that's the only thing that's certain is uncertainty. You never know how it's going to go. So you're leaving comfortable for uncomfortable. And you mentioned that your wife had started the business and it didn't go well. So what was the conversation like when you mentioned to your wife, hey, I'm leaving this job to start a business?
She is my best friend. I've said this to her so many times that I'm so lucky to have her, as my best friend, and that she happens to be my wife, right? So I think she knows, she knew deep down, like, dude, you're never going to be fully happy and you're never going to be fully satisfied professionally until you go out on your own. Her dad was a former hockey player, played pro hockey for most of his life. And then at about 40, when he retired, ended up starting a real estate company. And he's been in real estate and has been very successful, running a brokerage up in Canada in her hometown. And her brother, same thing. Her mom, same thing, was a travel agent and worked for herself. And I think both of us understood that, look, working for somebody else, it pays the bills. It's sort of a means to the end. But that's not going to satisfy our personalities. It's not what we want. We can be happy with the life that we had and make that work, but it wasn't going to satisfy us. And so when I approached her and I said to her, I really think that I need to do this, she said, okay. She's a much better planner than I am. I fly by the seat of my pants a lot of times, where you're like, I'm down in the dumps because I haven't heard anybody, or heard back from anybody or a client, or these meetings, they're being moved around and I feel down in the dumps. Like it was like, keep grinding. And in my opinion, I've been very fortunate, touch wood on this, is that I always look at this calendar for the next week or two.
Okay.
I'm like, damn, good thing I have meetings coming in. So I think that plan of sticking to 3 months and talking to my wife about that and having her support, she was like, all right, go prove it. And I think we sat at the end of the day and we kind of had to, there's so much pressure that you put on yourself as an entrepreneur. But at the end of the
Right.
day, I said to her, if this doesn't work, guess what the option is? I go back and get a real job somewhere else. Like if that's the
Hmm.
worst thing in life is that you failed at entrepreneurship, it wasn't working, people weren't buying in, you didn't work hard enough, whatever the reason is, it failed. The alternative is, well, I know what my base salary is at the company I was at. I'll go get another job. And I might not be super happy doing that, but at least it gets us through what we need to financially. So the conversation was actually pretty supportive, really supportive. And she was like, go do it. I believe in you.
Perfect. I want to break that down. You mentioned those 3 months. So what year was this that you quit the job? What year? What were we
It was,
talking about?
it was actually December of last year, like
Oh wow.
first week of December. So it's like brand new,
So this is 3 months in this year.
3 months into this year.
Okay, so that's perfect timing. So what was that plan of action? You say 3 months. Was there? And I know some of this was in the article. You mentioned grind. You asked Siri, right? What is that? What does that actually mean? I think it's something like that you mentioned in there. What did month one look like? Did you have a plan of clients you're going to get? And day one, were you just creating content, putting it on YouTube? And I looked at some of your YouTube content as well. Was that the play?
So it's interesting. I joked about flying by the seat of my pants, but when it comes to business, like you really have to be strategic, right? You actually have to have a strategy. And so, long story, but going back to the fall of 2023, I launched a YouTube channel to help build, because I saw what was going on in the golf media space. And I thought, if I can build up my name and people associate me with the former publication I was with, that's going to be good because we're both buying into each other, right? And I quickly found out that, or was not, like, it wasn't a, a revelation. It was more of a reminder. Like, I'm an employee. I'm not, like, they could fire me just as fast as I could leave, right? And so they were saying, we love the ambition. We wish there was more of that, but we can't have you go out, using your connections through some of the teachers and whatnot that you work with to then go and create content on what looks at, or what they looked at as a competitor, on YouTube. And I said, okay, that's fine. So I took some time off and I rebranded it Rainmakers. And so my buddy and I featured him. We would go on these trips and play golf, and I featured him more than me because I was like, I don't want any visibility or any paper trail back to myself, but I do want to grow this brand. It was sort of like going on behind the scenes. Let's get some content. Let's see that we can get some eyeballs and kind of trial and error test things. And so from probably about this time last year until December, so I would say 8 months, I was just testing, and we were posting stuff on Instagram, just to kind of get an idea, on our YouTube channel. And then by the time December rolled around, my day for the last 3 months leading up to that decision to leave was really write some articles, do the job I need to, and then work in after hours to get interviews and client calls and emails out, so that I knew that when the timing was right, I could make the leap and be like, all right, I'm not losing any momentum. So there was sort of this plan in place of, all right, we're going to have YouTube, we're going to get some subscribers, we're going to show that we're doing something, rather than just me leaving and be like, all right, now this is day one. This had been almost a year in advance of me making the decision to leave. without making any money or being a real brand. And so that first month was tricky because it was the beginning of December. So everyone was getting ready for end of year and the holidays. And I was like, hell no, man. Like, I've got to grind and just email and text as many people as possible now that I've left this role and started my own job. And so the first day that I was by myself, my wife and daughter went up to Canada. So I had a week by myself, and it was just go, go, go. It felt so liberating because everything I was doing was so intentional with every call and everyone I was reaching out to. And I had a few meetings already lined up within a week of launching this. And then the holidays came, we all sort of decompressed. And then coming out into the new year, it was like, all right, there's no like knocking off the cobwebs. It's like, Nick, you got to steamroll back into this. And it was emailing and following up, setting up, different meetings that I needed to, whether it was in person or on golf courses. Went down to the PGA show and kind of had it be my coming out party, so to speak, where I was able to reintroduce myself and meet some new people down there, and tell them what I was doing. And yeah, it was just sort of like, let's just go. And as fast as we can and as strategic as we can, let's make sure we're talking to the right people. So yeah, it's been a long grind, man. I mean, people that I talked to in December, I'm still waiting for, a yes or no from. And it just kind of goes to show like what the sales cycle is like and how long those conversations sometimes take, to really come to fruition. So yeah, it's really, I use the word grind. It's been just a grind and I love it. I love it. There wouldn't be anything else I'd rather be doing, honestly.
Yeah, it's fun. Like you said, it's so freeing when you're doing something that you love. And when you say Rainmaker, so what is it that Rainmakers? I know you have the YouTube channel. It's like a media company. What is it that you're actually selling? You're getting these meetings. What are they buying into?
Yeah. So Rainmakers there's two parts of the company. The one is what you see on YouTube. It's the content creation. It'd be no different than any other of those, golf content creators or golf channels that are out there.
Right.
We're able to build the audience up. We're able to use our relationships and give entertaining, engaging content. Now, hopefully, as we continue to do that, as we continue to scale, we hire different personalities. We put together franchises and different video types that scratch the itch for that golfer who loves to watch content on YouTube. Now, ours is obviously a little bit more instruction based, given my background. But I
Hmm.
think I know we're going to do it in a very different and unique way than what's already out there. So, we're going to put together, again, a 3-hole challenge where I'm working with teachers or pros, and they're going to be my lifeline through those 3 holes. They're going to pick the tee box that I'm playing from, and then also what my target score is. So that type of golf instruction isn't out there. It's sort of blending a playing lesson where it's fun and engaging with actual sheer golf tips.
Hmm.
So I'm really excited about having that really kind of build some momentum. So as we build that out, we can leverage that for brands, right? It's all right, let's put
Right.
together a campaign. Let's sell that through. And then the biggest thing for us, a really huge asset for us, is our partnership with Athlon Sports. So Athlon has 72 million page views a month that they get, which is just absolutely insane. And it's a much
Hmm.
more broader audience than the very niche, you know, hardcore golf media or golfers that just want golf tips. So that's one side of the business. And then the other side is strictly the agency side, where, say, a company comes to us and they say, well, we are a golf training aid, and man, we just don't know what we're doing. Like, sales are okay, but like, look at our Instagram, and it's very old school. It's just very banner addy, really salesy. They come to us and say, look, not only did you work at this specific publication in the golf space, but you've worked at Maxim Magazine, you've worked at Bleacher Report, you've worked at Bro Bible, you rebranded FHM, Entrepreneur Media. Like, you've worked at some of the highest, most recognizable brands in the world. How can you help us with our content strategy? And so they come to us to essentially serve as their agency. So that's sort of the two sides of the business, which again is very unique. It's not just me going out playing golf every day getting content. It's very much
Hmm.
like that part of the business, and then there's the real kind of like businessy stuff, which is meetings and making sure we pitch the right people to work with them.
Yeah, I love the fact that I love the content aspect of it, and especially for individuals that are a lot older in age, because there's so much value I think they can add, and a place they can start before they leave their job is, by creating content, having something to offer, and then you can add that next piece later. The content aspect of it, what have you found? Because I'm so interested in YouTube. What have you found that's really working for your instructional videos? And have you looked? Is that market really? But I know about golf, like good that golf channel that does
Yeah,
really well. But more so, I guess your niche is instructional golf stuff on
yeah,
YouTube.
yeah.
Okay,
So the bread and butter of golf instruction, or I'm sorry, I should say the bread and butter of the publication I was with was always golf instruction.
right.
I used to always, I would joke with it, but it's true. And it's sort of this like secret within the golf industry is there isn't anything really new. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you're putting a ball in play off of a club face that you're hitting.
Right.
And there's so many ways you can do that. It's, the old joke of swing your swing. So there isn't anything new. It's not like, all right, you're coming in, you're bending down and doing something herky jerky, and that's going to help the ball
Hmm.
hit the air. It's like you have to figure out, yes, the technical side of the golf swing, but if you picked up a magazine about golf instruction from 60 years ago to today, there's going to be a lot of similarities. Like there's going to be a lot of crossover of here's how to use your feet to putt. Here's what you need to do with your ball position when you're chipping. Here's what you want to do. Make sure you've got a little bit of side tilt as you're swinging up on your driver to help launch it. Like these are not things that are brand new. The concepts are being communicated differently, but and so what we're doing with Rainmakers is we're making it much more relatable. Like, look, I'm a guy who's never broken 80. I've been playing golf for 30 some years. Some might be like, dude, that's pathetic. It's not like I've taken lessons. It's not like I've committed myself to the game. It's not like I'm going to the range every single week. I'm literally the guy now, as a dad, especially, who I might go 3 months, 4 months in between playing full rounds. Now, that doesn't mean
Hmm.
I'm not on the golf course filming content, but there's very few times. Tomorrow is actually the first time since November that I get to go play a round of golf where I'm not filming at all. And it's a full 18 holes, and I'm just able to like get out there and play and enjoy myself and not have to worry about being on camera. And I think because of that, most golfers can relate to that person. You're getting by on just sheer muscle memory. And it takes 3 holes to really get into a routine of like, what's your pre shot routine and getting back into habits and figuring out the bad versus the good. And that's what Rainmakers strives to be is we want to be a voice and really an outlet to help those people realize, you know what, just because this is golf instruction and golf tips doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. We're going to show you, yeah, I'm getting the best instruction in the world from the top teachers, but it might take me a while to get out. And they're going to help you along the way, show what I'm doing wrong, to make sure that you as a viewer can identify with that and be like, boom, that's my problem, and here's the solution to fix it.
Right. And that's perfect. You mentioned before you have 11,000. It's not 111,000, but that's the goal. And I know for as YouTube to get to if you're going looking at subscribers, you want to get to a larger audience size, you have to make what you're creating a little more broader of an audience. So, golf instruction, I've never played around the golf in my life, right? Never even, I picked up a club, never played around the golf. Like funny story, I actually have a golf course like literally, walking distance right down from where I stay. I always pass it. I always say I'm gonna go play around the golf. But what is the strategy around, and more so, I guess more content specific? What are you looking at to broaden out, to make what you're creating on YouTube more broader for people to get to your goal of hitting over 100,000?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think, when you talk about entrepreneurship as a whole, just to give you an idea, like I'm not happy that we're at 11,000. I mean, I am. Don't get me wrong, but I want that to be 20,000, 50,000,
Right.
100,000. But I need to remind myself, and this is the funny part of being an entrepreneur. I told myself by Masters Sunday, I want 10,000 subscribers. I told myself that. I told other people that in January at the PGA show because I think I was at like 7,600, right?
Mm-hmm.
Masters Sunday is 3 days away, 4 days away. and I'm at 11,000. So I've actually surpassed my goal. So I can't be mad. Like I
Right.
anything in addition to this is like it's a win. So I think I'm only saying that for anyone who might be an entrepreneur who's like, man, I wanted a million, million in sales, and I've only got 200,000 right now. It's like, yeah, but you have another 3 months to reach your goal. Like, what happens if you get to a million in those 3 months? Like, don't get down on yourself just because it hasn't happened today, right? I think it was a good
Hmm.
reminder. Now, in terms of your question about diversifying content, I think that comes back to as we get these opportunities, as we scale, as we grow, bringing on different content creators. I mean, my niche is golf instruction. My relationships are in golf instruction. Um, Again, the way that we're presenting that information outside of just the general kind of tips and instruction that you might see is the 3 hole challenge and sort of the idea of making it much more relatable. But I know that there's other golfers out there, and there's really good golfers, and there's really bad golfers, and making sure that we identify with those people. Young golfers, like
Hmm.
guys and girls who've never picked up a golf club. How do we identify with them and make it very relatable for them? So I think the question or the answer to that question is really diversifying voices and faces and building brands and franchises around those people as part of the Rainmakers network. That's ultimately the goal. And it's no different than any media company, right? I mean, you look at ESPN. I love, pardon the interruption, and
Right.
I don't necessarily love First Take. They're the same show. It's two guys debating each other, right? And talking about a topic. So it's the exact same concept, but it's presented differently because of personalities. And so I think for me, that's sort of the playbook that I'm hoping to do with Rainmakers. Um, and it's a company that has done it very well, and I've never necessarily been, I don't want to say a fan, but I've never followed or engaged with it, is Barstool.
Right.
Dave Portnoy launched Barstool. It was him. It was, hey, I'm El Presidente or whatever. And it was just like, all right, here's some guy from Boston talking about God knows what, being a little bit of abrasive and thinking outside the box on how he delivers it. It shook up an industry. And as they grew, it was less and less of him in front of the camera and more so hiring really good talent to
Hmm.
present information and shows and franchises and podcasts and whatever else. And I don't want to say that we're going to be the bar stool of golf because I don't know if that we need that. There might already be that out there. But in terms of the business and the strategy, that is how I look at us diversifying the content to say, if you want sheer golf instruction in video form, here you go. If you want it in podcast form, here you go. If you want it in, you don't want golf instruction, but you want just fun, engaging content, here you go. I want to make sure we appeal to a large audience, and not just the stuffy kind of old school golfers, but also again the 8-year-old kid who's getting into the game, who's going to be in 10 years 18, and wants to make golf cool and make it fun and make it no different than playing soccer, basketball, baseball, football. Like you're just hanging out with your friends, and it's it's a good time. That's what I want Rainmakers to kind of get across and feel like.
Yeah, that'd be fun because I've always, like I said, I've always passed the golf course. Always wanted to go in golf, but never made it there. Top Golf is something that has come up. I've been invited to a few events of Top Golf, but have never had an opportunity to get there. So definitely would be something if you could tailor the content to someone like myself who's never played
Yeah.
golf. I think that would be ideal. What would you tell yourself now? Not if you're in this, you're in this journey, having some success with all your content in your business. Is there anything that you wish you can go that now you wish you can go back and tell the old version of yourself to make it even a lot smoother and gained a lot more steam than you have now?
I definitely know there's thousands of things I would probably tell myself. I've been very fortunate though because most entrepreneurs they say it's so lonely, and I have not had to experience that. Touch wood. I've been
Mhm.
very fortunate to have clients early on who already are talking about joining forces and becoming partners with in their companies and potentially in Rainmaker. So my day to day is with the clients I have, basically talking strategy and figuring out how do we refine their brand messaging and sell the consumer product and everything. Um, so it's much more of like a day to day grind for them. The Rainmaker stuff, I don't want to say it comes easy or it's second to what we need to do, but because it's only me creating the content out on the golf course right now, especially this time of year where it's not prime golf season quite yet. Um, it's stuff where we like have videos banked and we're sort of rolling it out. So I don't think we've met like our stride yet um,
Mm-hmm.
on the YouTube and the content side yet, like in terms of really getting that organized and figuring out like, okay, it's tight and here we go. So that would probably be the only thing I would remind myself is like, you don't have to have all the answers right now. Whereas 4 months ago when I started, or 3.5 months ago, I probably think I needed all the answers. But again, I've been very fortunate because I don't have to go about this alone. It's very much supportive from the teachers I talk to, the brands I talk to, agencies I talk to, the clients that I have conversations with every day. Um, so any questions that I would have had, I usually am able to either answer through my conversations with them or really ask these people um, who are also fellow entrepreneurs that, look, we kind of are picking each other up. Like I'm supporting you and
Mm-hmm.
reminding you like this is not going to happen overnight, just like you're reminding me. So, um, yeah, man, I think, you always obviously ask yourself if this is the right decision. And it's hard not to, it's human nature not to get down when, you're trying so hard um, and you're not seeing the immediate reward. But when you
Absolutely.
step back and you look at it at a 30,000 foot level, you're kind of like, man, actually doing some really cool stuff. And yeah, it hasn't happened on what in my mind my time frame is, but at the same time, like it has. And you have to remind yourself that. So I think it wouldn't be a question, but just a reminder. You have to be patient um, and continue to show up. As long as you continue to show up and you put your effort in, things will happen for you.
And I'll finish with this one more question. There's going to be a lot of people watching this. And as I mentioned before, there's a lot of people out there now when I go to Reddit and doing research for the podcast of individuals that are 40, a little bit older. And as you mentioned, the human nature side of it is it's too late. If you were coaching someone, and not in golf, but like from a career perspective, and saying they have the same thought process now, same situation, maybe married, have a kid, but they want to go out and start. And I'm gonna kind of tee it up for you a little easier. Do you think an easier path would be start creating content and just start putting something out there because it's literally low risk, low investment? Or I would say low risk because you don't really lose anything if you have a job and you're still creating content.
When it comes to content, there's no there's no rhyme or reason why something does well versus why it doesn't. And I'm sure everyone within content marketing and media will roll their eyes at that. But the ones that really understand that get that. Um, get what I mean by that. He's a mentor of mine. He was my former boss at Maxim, first job I ever had in publishing out of college. So 16 years ago. And still he's a partner actually in another business of mine. That's how good of like a mentor he has been of mine.
Mhm.
Um, and he always jokes. He said, anyone who tells you they know the algorithm, they're lying to you. And so when it comes to content creation, to your point, like you just have to start. And I know it's so stupid and so basic. And I have to
Mhm.
remind myself that every single day, dude, you don't want to just post a post. Um, but you just need to start. And like my expectation is I've worked at brands that have hundreds of thousands of millions of followers on Instagram. So my expectation is I need to be so deliberate and so intentional with everything that I post because my
Mhm.
expectation level is it's going out to 100 million people. But on paper, it's like you have 11,000 subscribers on YouTube. You have like 400 followers on Instagram right now. We haven't really invested in Instagram. Like you're still so new that you can you can mess up. You can post something
Right.
that
Right.
might not be great, or you might think might be okay, but it's okay. It's keeping the engine on, and it's keeping kind of the
Mhm.
momentum. You're taking the steps you need so that as you grow, as other people see, oh wow, they're posting once a day, they're posting twice a day, it keeps the momentum for people to see who you are and say, whoa, that's a really cool post. Like I didn't know they even existed, but look how engaging this is, or look how good this golf instruction tip is. So I think to anyone who's questioning whether or not they want to start, especially in content, yeah, I mean, you just have to start. My wife's a prime example of that. Like, she has a brand that she wants to launch, and I'm like, I know you don't have the time to really like focus and make it perfect, but if you just start and you just go, then great. So, you have to remind yourself if that's now become the expectation. And so if your
Mhm.
followers see that, they're like, man, they've got Brooks Kepka, like, yes, like let's follow these guys. Like they're having fun with him. Like they've got a video or two with him. Like this is awesome. The next video could be me trying to break 40 from the front tees, and people are like, wait a second, what the hell is this? Like this isn't.
Right.
I didn't subscribe to this channel for this. Like I want more of the Brooks stuff. And so I
Right.
think for anyone who wants to start, like keep perspective on how fast you really want to grow, and just trust the process, and start slow, post, see what works, see what doesn't, use hashtags, work on collaborations, like do what you can to be smart about it. And then you might find that one day a post that you post just randomly walking down the street for no reason whatsoever is the one that gets the most eyeballs, and you don't have really like a strategy around why that happened to be the one that gets 15, 20, 25,000 views. But
Mhm.
again, all the work that you've done prior of just posting and making sure it fits what your brand and your belief is and what your brand should be, it's going to pay off. So yeah, man, it's like anything. You have to just go and try things and fail and learn and commit to it. And once you commit and show up, you'll be fine.